Welcome to part 2 of my Pester in Action series. So I've already ran through a very brief intro to Pester. Not so much to show you how to use it, but to get you comfortable enough that you understand what you're looking at in these next few examples. I definitely recommend finding some just Pester guides online, going through the wiki. In fact, I use the wiki for quite a bit of my documentation on how to use Pester. And so in this series, I'm going to take a basic script that creates a shortcut on the desktop as the example. I'm going to start wrapping around it Pester tests, and we're going to grow that script into something more advanced along the way. And we'll see how my use of Pester changes as the complexity of the script changes with it. So I'm going to get my screen up here. And again, I just want to point out that these scripts are up on GitHub. And I'm going to jump right back into my script. I have in the ISC window here. We're on the next section where say show. Sorry about that. Show basic script and Pester tests. So first, let me check my desktop here. All right, my first script is going to create a shortcut on the desktop. I grabbed a simple example because we're not going to focus on this script as much, but it is going to grow along the way. So it's got a few things here where I'm defining the thing I'm going to create a shortcut to. Here is where I'm going to place it. In this case, it's in my user profile on the desktop. It's just going to be a shortcut to Notepad. Nothing crazy there. To do it, I'm using the WShell object. I'm creating a new one, and then I'm using the command to create a shortcut where I pass the destination as part of the object when I'm creating it in the constructor. I set one attribute, which is the target path, to my notepad.exe. It should be in the System32 folder, and then I save it. When we get to this point here, we'll get a shortcut on the desktop. So let's run this guy. Let's see what we get. No errors in the window. And if I go to my desktop, bam, Notepad right there on the desktop. Let's delete that guy for now. And what do we got here? Alt tab's going crazy on me. So, simple scripts that I think you should be able to follow along as we go into our tests. Really, there's not much to test, right? It's like, did it create the shortcut? So let's jump into my first, or your first Pester test, right? There is a little bit of scaffolding here at the very beginning that I use. And actually, if you use the Pester built-in function, new fixture, right? New fixture, it will create the scaffolding here and put these things in there. So what this is doing is it's figuring out the location of where this test is, this create desktop to shortcut test.ps1, and it's putting it into the here variable. I don't know why. I don't know where the SUT stands for comes from. I should look into that. What we do is we take here. In fact, let's just replace this here, and we replace it with we replace the .tests, basically remove .tests from the string, from the path. That's the way I'm figuring out what I'm going to test, since in my demo, I name my script without the test, and I add this on to the Pester test. I'm trying to figure out how to get to this guy without actually knowing what his path is, right? This way, I can just move these things around. I don't have to worry about paths and file names. As long as I keep this pattern of naming all my tests.tests, they will know where the file is. And then this line here, I just get the file that I'm testing. So when I run this here will actually be the create desktop shortcut.ps1 reference there. So my describe, I'm taking the name of the file, the base name, so I'm dropping the ending. I'm just using that for the title of my describe block. Since I always have the scaffolding up here, I think this is a good way to be very generic, and I don't have to worry about hand typing this name as these things change. I'm using an additional keyword here to tag it as unit tests. But honestly, we don't need that, as well as more advanced features. So the first test. Actually, this is the first test I use in a lot of my scripts, which is it valid PowerShell, right? Does the script, it has no script errors? I use this command that basically pulls the contents, and it uses some automation.ps parser, which I think is PowerShell 4 enough to tokenize it, and it looks for errors. If it finds errors, it puts them in this referenced object here that is then counted, and the count should be 0, right? This is what we're talking about our test. This is the test. Count should be 0. So if this passes, I know it's like the compile or the build test, right? If you're writing codes and you're not missing a semicolon or something in like C#, the build will fail. Well, this is a way to kind of build to test your scripts. You will see this over and over in about every one of my Pester tests. So then we actually get to the meat of things. Does it create a shortcut on the desktop? Well, I execute the file by name, right? So I basically invoke it. For this example, I probably should have put the path of the file I was executing, but this is a generic way I would approach this when I can. Then I'm defining ahead of time, well, I'm defining that location where, as I'm running this test, I know I'm going to place the shortcut on the desktop. So we're executing it, and then we're testing, does this path, does this notepad.lnk exist? And that is the whole test. All right. So let me check my desktop again. No notepad. Oh, something up there. There's no notepad right now. And we go to the next line here where I invoke Pester to run the test. And the test says, hey, it's valid PowerShell. There's no script errors. And it creates a shortcut on the desktop. 2 passed, nothing failed. So perfect. The test says the script does exactly what I intended to do. Now, you'll notice one side effect, though, is my tests are manipulating my environment, right? If I come back over here, because it executed that script, it created Notepad on the desktop. So This might almost be a silly one to have a Pester test for because it is so simple to validate it. Because it's just a very single purpose, one shot. I create this file, and it's easy to spot check to see did it create that file. But as we get more advanced, let's look at a advanced script. Okay, so in this case, I've added the command bindings and parameter block to allow me to define the source file and the destination of where I want the shortcut to go. So now it's not going just to the desktop. It can go anywhere I want. I can make any kind of shortcut. So I'm starting to build a tool out of this. I do some logic testing here, right? Test path, is the source really a file? And if so, we're going to first get the object. I'm then going to create a shortcut path by joining the base name. I'm going to join the destination where I want to go with the base name plus LNK. I'm doing the same old WScript shell object. Create the shortcut, set the source, save it. That's pretty simple scripts. We've just given it a little bit more flexibility. And we'll see that in our tests. So if I pull up my tests now, I've got that same scaffolding at the beginning to get the files I'm working with. And I say, is it a valid PowerShell? Yes, it is. I need to go into that one again. Does it create a shortcut? So here, first thing I'm doing is I'm testing that a couple files don't exist because I don't want them to be there before my test runs to influence the results. So I say this text file should not exist. And this shortcut should also not exist. Because I'm using the test drive, I'm fairly confident that that won't happen, but it never hurts to add that test. So then I create a new file. I create a text file, no big deal. Then I execute my file, execute the script, sorry, that we're testing, and we're passing in a source this time, which is our text file, and we're giving it a destination. In this case, is the test drive. Now you'll notice I didn't use test drive like I did before. And that's actually a bug on the part of my script. It doesn't actually support PS drives. It chokes on it quite nastily and throws an error. But thankfully, PowerShell also defines a test drive variable that is the same thing as the test drive, but it's the actual full path to it in the temp folder. So we execute it, so it should create the file, and the test says test drive.test.lnk should exist. And that, my friends, is the script. So let's run it. We say execute, and it is valid PowerShell. Yes. It creates a shortcut. Yeah, it does. Well, it was pretty easy, pretty simple. But now we've got different different parameters. Our tests are more valid, and it's letting us do some more things with it. So let's go deeper, right? Let's go into a advanced function. So here's one where I actually have a help block, right? So if we do get help on this function, it's going to say it creates a new shortcut. And it gives an example. The source, destination, and second example is this one's using the pipe. My parameter block, it's grown up a little bit. I've given it way more features to it. So I'm saying the source is now a mandatory feature. It's the first position, and to accept values from the pipeline. Like I like to think of my scripts as tools, and it's really easy with these things to add pipeline support. So I'm pretty quick to add that in all of my parameters. And I kind of got this very similar thing on the folder, or sorry, the destination, which is defaulting to the desktop. I also add a name property now so that if I want my destination to have a different name than the original shortcut, this function now supports that. So now we have a true function that is using a lot of the advanced features that you'd like to see a tool have. I take advantage of the begin block, which runs at the beginning, to create my WScript shell early on. If I'm working with multiple objects, it's only instantiated once, so I'm not creating more objects than I need. So because I'm using the pipe, I'm adding the process block, and I tend to do this for each to iterate over my source. The cool thing about this is it allows me to take either an array or a single object. So if I do a for each over a single object or for each over an array of one, it's the same, it'll loop through this once. But if it's an array of multiple things, it'll handle both cases very cleanly. And I really like doing that. So you're going to see that a lot. In a lot of my functions, I'll have that for each loop to loop through my main input object just to make it a more generic, useful tool. And we test the path. I switch from source to node, which is nomenclature I like to use. So in this node, I get the file. If I've given a name, I add the name to the end. If not, I just use the base name and add the .lnk and get the shortcut, save it, and I throw the file back onto the output. This is a way to put it on the pipe for me to use later on. Do I need to do this? Probably not, but it made sense as a tool to pass the object down the pipe for some future need. So let's look at my tests. So new shortcut tests. You notice I still have the same nomenclature where I use tests represents my tests, and the base part of the file is still the same as the file up here. So when we jump into this file, again, same structure up here. I reference the base file name as my describe block. I say unit, but I don't need to for these examples. Is it valid PowerShell? Yes. Yes, it is. We've gone through this, I think. I need to go and do it again. Basic features, context. I dot source the file in this case. So I've now I've imported that function. To help my tests, I create 4 temporary files so I can make shortcuts in different permutations and to test the multiple file support. So it creates a shortcut. So new shortcut, I define my source, right? Is that shortcut. My destination, I use the test drive variable, and it should create a link right next to the text file in this case. So it'll say, does the test drive, it should exist. This file should exist. Let's look at my other tests. It creates a named shortcut. So it's like the same parameters here, where I take my source test.text, but down here I give it a name of test2, and my test expects test2 to be the name. So test2 should exist. Output is a file. So I go through the dance where I create a new shortcut, just like before, and I capture the result, the output, into a variable. And I kind of walk through it. I first say the result should not be null or empty. The result should exist. I mean, it's a file, it's a path, right? It should be able to say it should exist. I might actually have these backwards, but we'll see. And I do the result get type name should be a file info object. Oh, so now we're going to do some like pipe testing. Oh, wait. No, sorry, multiple object testing. It creates multiple shortcuts with named parameter, right? So I get child item. I use a wildcard here, which gives me all 4 of those test files, those text files. So I do new shortcut. Source is now an array of files at the destination. And when I execute it, my result should not be null or empty. My result should have 4 items in it. And my result should exist. Honestly, I'm not sure where I'm going at with this one because it's an array. Honestly, I should be able to say this should exist. Yeah, I like that. Oh, and it creates multiple shortcuts using the pipe. So I do the same thing. I get all my files using the wildcard, so I have 4 of them. My files, I pipe it to new shortcut, and I just give it a destination. So I'm not even defining the source this time. It should get the source from this side of the pipe. And it should not be null or empty. The count should be 4. And the results should exist. And that, I think, is all of my tests. So let's see it in action. Invoke Pester. All right, let me scroll this up again. Bam, right there, describing new shortcut. It is valid PowerShell. And in the context of basic features, it'll create a shortcut. It'll create one with a name. The output is a file. Multiple shortcuts with a name parameter. Oh, that's me using the source with the array. And multiple shortcuts using the pipe. So, wow, I've got a tool now where I can just take a folder full of files, executables, or anything, and say, hey, create new shortcut onto this share or to this other location. I can point to anywhere now. It's a tool, right? Let's say my new function. Okay, I did my invoke Pester, so I already did that one. And you know what my function needs? It needs a get shortcut. It does. So I wrote a get shortcut function that sits right beside my new shortcut function. And we don't have to look at the code of that one. We're just going to go look at the tests, because the tests should really tell us how it works. And what we got? So, okay, scaffolding, still the same. Describing is the name of the file. So this one should be the get shortcut. Is it valid PowerShell? Yes. Basic features. So I import the file. So this is the get shortcut now. I also .source the new shortcut command so that I can use it to create shortcuts to test my get shortcut to see if it can read them or not. I create a file I create a file that will create shortcuts on. So my shortcut is new shortcut with this source. Destination is the test drive. So my first test is can open shortcut from a file info object. So I've already created my shortcut up here, right? And I've got the results back from my new shortcut. Well, new shortcut, we know returns a file info object because we tested for it. So let's call our get shortcut and we get the results. First thing is, it should not be null or empty. The result has a property of first name or full name, and that should match test.lnk. It also has a target path, what it's linking to, and that should match test.txt. All right. And it can open a shortcut from a path string. So I cheat. I use the same shortcut here. But I pull out the full name because I know that's a string to give to the path. So it's going to do a lookup of the file. So I get shortcut, same tests actually, not null. Full name is test.lnk, test target path. What it's linking to is test.txt. All right, let's see if my function works. Let's execute this, run selection, check my results, and now my get shortcut is valid PowerShell, and it can open a shortcut from a file info object, and it can open a shortcut from a path string. How cool is that? In fact, let's take this command here and just rerun this guy in this folder. Can I do this? Find out if I can do this. So it just ran all the functions in advanced functions. Or it ran all the tests in advanced functions. I did that because they're named .tests. There was 2 of them. All right. So as I look at this here, it actually did get shortcut first. And you notice I'm using those. So let's get shortcut is valid, basic features, it can open them, and then it goes on to the next one, new shortcut. Is it valid? Does it create them? And I think we got some pretty good looking functions, and we got some good tests for them, which makes sense with advanced functions, right? When you can like vary the inputs and you can interact with them with different ways, it's good to have tests with them that take care of all those permutations. Because it's hard to tell if you've broken one of those through changes you've made in your development later, because we have a tendency to test the same things over and over and assuming like or related tests are going to pass. So I'm going to wrap up this video here, and on the next one, we're going to turn these functions, we're going to look at a module. And this is where we're starting to lean more towards the way I use Pester. So I'm going to show you some unique examples in here that you could use in your environments that you might not have seen anywhere else yet. So I'm going to wrap this one up here, and we will move on to the next video shortly. So thank you.